good career runs through a 4-year college degree, this conversation is going to change your mind. And if you're an employer struggling to find skilled workers, same thing. The Gulf Coast region's in the middle of a building and construction infrastructure boom. The Texas Medical Center is expanding. There are major industrial projects across the Gulf Coast. The demand for skilled trade workers is enormous, and the talent pipeline isn't quite keeping up. That's why we're here to talk about apprenticeship, one of the best ways to fill those pathways. Apprenticeships don't happen without employers willing to participate, and connect employers to those opportunities is exactly what the board's employer engagement team does every day across every industry in this region, not just construction. I'm honored to be joined here today by Crosby Brito, who serves as our Senior Manager of Employer Engagement for the Gulf Coast Workforce Board. Crosby, thanks so much for joining us today. So when it comes to finding and keeping good workers, what are you hearing right now? What are employers saying?
Well, it's a challenge. I think every industry is going through its own shortage to some extent. I think there's a recycling that's being done. I'm hiring my competitors' employees and I have to bring them from abroad, or I have to bring them from out of the region, I have to bring them from out of the state, and that could be expensive. So I do think that eventually we are going to run out of this recycling method. So now is the time to start developing, growing your own workforce, because there's going to be expensive for you to bring somebody with a lot of experience. And again, having a lot of experience is not always the best way either. You need to develop and train people your way.
And so tell us a little bit more about what you do at Workforce Solutions Gulf Coast.
Yeah, I am the Employer Engagement Manager for the Gulf Coast Workforce Board Workforce Solutions. And my responsibility is to serve employers on their terms, their HR needs, their training needs, hiring needs. A lot of employers don't realize that Workforce Solutions has a department and staff dedicated specifically to employer services. That includes anything that has to do with training, hiring, upskilling current employees, customized training, hiring events, screening, recruiting, posting their jobs. Mind you, this is all free of cost, but again, the employers wouldn't know about this unless we're the ones that are telling them about it. So our job is to go out there and inform our employers of these services.
So why should an employer consider creating a registered apprenticeship program here locally?
Yeah, I mean, it's a strategy. Employers are looking and they're using any resources available for them to develop the next wave of workforce. They're probably already reimbursing for tuition. They're probably already paying for some type of training for their employees. So sometimes it's to reevaluate and say, if I'm spending this much money for an employee to get this training that really doesn't bring back to my company, maybe I should reinvest and develop an apprenticeship where now I'm paying for education, but I'm paying for the education that I need and is not just wide open to any position. So it could be an expensive investment from the employer, but if you reevaluate it and if an employer evaluated what they're spending their education and their training funding on, they're probably going to realize that they're spending more not doing a registered.
So how does Workforce Solutions Gulf Coast help employers create a registered apprenticeship program?
Yeah. So the registered apprenticeship is registered with the Department of Labor. That is the only one, and that is the ultimate approver of registered apprenticeships. The Workforce Board can sit down with an employer, review their current workforce strategies, review their current paths that they're taking, their open positions, provide labor market intelligence to see what they're paying compared to others, looking to see what education is required for the position, and develop the training curriculum that's required with the registration. We can help them with the documentation to collect, introduce them to Department of Labor representatives. The state of Texas has its own department or office called the Office of Apprenticeship. They are great partners of the Workforce Board. We could also introduce them to them for their assistance and technical assistance. But ultimately, the employer makes the decision, fills out the documentation. They call the shots. It's almost as if you're asking the employer, come up with your own training regime. What do you want to do? How long do you want to do it for? What do you want it to incorporate? What do you want to focus on? Who do you want the instructor to be? Where do you want it to happen? You sign off on it and the Department of Labor approves it. So we are facilitators. We are the conveners. We'll put the right people together. We'll bring in the right experts, but the employer's not alone. I think that's the important thing that we want to get across here, that this is a very important milestone, but they do not have to go about this alone.
So, what are some of the skills gap that employers are talking to you about? And what's important for our listeners to hear about, what type of skills and requirements are being sought out?
I'll go really basic with you. Okay, really, really basic math.
Mm.
For some reason, people do not know how to do math anymore. And maybe it's just the type of math. Maybe we're overthinking the math. I don't know. That is something that we may have to look into, you and I. But math is one for sure that I can tell people that it's something that when you're in school, I was one of them. I'm not going to need this. I'm not going to need these fractions. No, you're going to need them, and we need to pay attention to this. But also just simple communication, saying hi to somebody in an elevator, opening the door for somebody. You never know who you're going to meet in an elevator.
So, with registered apprenticeship programs and pre-apprenticeship programs, we're connecting folks to opportunities to be able to learn both hard skills and soft skills so that way they can succeed. But most important, so the employers can get the talent that they need.
Yeah, that's right. And registered apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships will have these type of modules included in them. And if you're an employer, if an employer is interested in these registered apprenticeships, we don't want you to forget that if you are having reading, writing, math type of challenges in your workforce, when you customize a registered apprenticeship, you could add that component. You can spend a month on that alone. You could spend 6 months on that alone. This is your apprenticeship. This is your curriculum. So you develop it as you need it.
So, if you could get one thing across to every employer in this region who hasn't yet engaged with Workforce Solutions Gulf Coast, what would that be?
Well, let me go a step further. Even if you have engaged us in the past, we're not the same Workforce Solutions that you probably engaged with if it's been last year, 2 years, 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So try us again for the first time, if we want to put it that way. So if you've never interacted with a Workforce Solutions staff member, and even if you have, we invite you to speak with us again. Things change in our world so quick, and the resources that you needed last year, 2 years ago, may have not been available then, but they're probably available now. So again, talk to us. Let's have a conversation. Let us diagnose the workforce problem, and we'll find the right solution. If we don't have it, we'll connect you with somebody who's going to have it. But I think that's the first thing. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk.
So, really exciting times looking at different opportunities to upskill, reskill, and connect people to great careers. Crosby, I want to thank you so much for all of your hard work, especially just making sure that registered apprenticeships are well known in our community.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to talk about that anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm joined here today with Paul Puente, Executive Secretary of the Houston Gulf Coast Building and Construction Trades Council. He's also a very wonderful member of the Gulf Coast Workforce Board and serves on the executive leadership team. Paul represents 17 skilled trades and has spent his career building the apprenticeship infrastructure and pre-apprenticeship infrastructure that trains the people who literally build Houston. And also, we're joined by Martin Trevino. He is the CEO of All Team Services, an HVAC and mechanical services company serving the greater Houston area. Martin has built his business around apprenticeship-trained workers and has a program of his own. We are pleased to be joined by both of you here today. So, Paul, tell a little bit about what is a registered apprenticeship program for someone that doesn't know.
So the Department of Labor, the Bureau of Apprenticeship Training is what it used to be called. It's now the Office of Apprenticeship. It is a registration with the Department of Labor through the United States. So that means if you are registered, the entire country is where you can travel. You can go anywhere once you have completed your course or your discipline within that trade. They register just about everything, not just construction. We've seen it in education, manufacturing, and we've also seen it in nursing and medical, which, you look at a lot of industries where education's important. Like to become a teacher, you have to get your bachelor's degree. You have to go through a certain amount of educational courses. In our industry in construction, you have to do the same, except it's an earn while you learn. And that's what makes registered apprenticeship program vital, is earning a living while you're learning that what it is that you're, having to earn as a living. So, and that way you don't have any student debt.
So tell me a little bit, you were saying you can earn and learn, and it's a very unique form of education where you actually start working while you're still studying, correct?
Yes. So our apprenticeship programs that we have in the union is a partnership between an employer and the union. They create what they call a joint apprenticeship training committee. That committee selects individuals based on certain minimum criteria that they communicated to all the applicants. Once they interview all the applicants, they make a selection. Out of that selection, they all have to go to work. They don't select individuals to just go to school. They have to go to work. Yeah, they go to work immediately, and then they start receiving health care additional to their wages. So they'll make a certain salary. That salary is around 50% of what a journeyman is making. So the journeyman making $30 an hour, the apprentice starting wage is $15. If they have a 5-year apprenticeship school, it starts at 50%. So it's either 5, 4, or 3 years worth of school.
So Martin,
Yes.
how did you find out about the apprenticeship program, and what does it mean to you?
I found out about the apprenticeship program running into a family member at the gas station.
Wow.
Yeah, at the time I was going to San Jack, taking 8 air conditioning classes, working for an air conditioning company, but I was ignorant to unions, apprenticeship schools. And so just bumping into this family member, he asked me, "What are you doing nowadays?" And I just shared with him what I was doing. He said, "Hey, you ought to go check out the apprenticeship school."
Had you ever heard of apprenticeship before?
No. And he's like, if you're in air conditioning, the pipe fitters union, it's an excellent program. They got a 5-year apprenticeship program. It's free. I'm like, okay, yeah. So we exchanged numbers, and he called me for the next 3 weeks, like every other day. He's like, "Hey, you need to go up there. Did you go?" And after like 2 or 3 weeks, we all get in comfort zone, right? So I was already comfortable with my school and my, my job. But after a couple of weeks of him being persistent, I told my wife, I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to go up there to this school and talk to somebody." And I went up there. I talked to Brian Edwards and shared with him, like, "Hey, I'm in construction. I've been in construction for 10 years already. I'm going to air conditioning school now. And, I heard about your program." And he just gave me the scale pay. He said, "Hey, man, if you sign up, this is what you're going to make your first year. This is what you're going to make your second year. This is your third year. It's a 5-year program. When you graduate, you're going to make this much. The insurance is free, right? The schooling is free." And so that's how I heard about it. And it was actually just a no-brainer.
So you completed the program, and then you started your own business,
Yes.
ATS, correct?
Yes. So I had some construction background. So he said, "Hey, Martin, instead of the whole 5-year apprenticeship with your construction background, you could probably skip a couple of years because you're not green, right? But after seeing the welding classes, the electrical classes, the refrigeration classes, all these classes that were free, I'm like, if I'm going to do 3-4 years, I might as well just do the whole program, right? So I did the 5-year apprenticeship school, completed that, worked as a journeyman for 2 or 3 years, and then ultimately opened up my air conditioning company.
Are you the first business owner in your family?
I am. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you ever think that you were going to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I did open up a construction company in my early 20s, just young and,
But the apprenticeship program gave you the experience, the connections to be able to create ATS, which is a very successful
Yeah.
company today.
Yeah, so the apprenticeship program taught me how to do things the right way, right? Like anybody can hang a piece of sheetrock or make a solder, right? And you can jump on YouTube and learn how to solder up a piece of
There's
pipe,
a lot of DIY stuff
Yeah,
there.
but the in-class training, learning what the book says, how to do things. It really is. It's the foundation of the company today, because you can't teach what you don't know, right? And so now I know how to do things right.
So we know that the building and construction industry is booming in this region. Could you talk a little bit more about the projects that are coming up, what you've been seeing out in the field?
Yeah, so about $50 billion worth of work is projected within a couple of years. It used to be like $50 billion for the next 5 years or next 10 years. Now it's like in 2 years, the $50 billion. Look, we just got approved for $2.5 billion Harris Health. We all voted for this bomb. We're building LBJ expansion next. We'll be doing some ambulatory clinics. Then you have the tower, the Bentop Tower. It's going to add another 100 beds. This is a tier 1 trauma center. If you get caught, if something happens to you, if you get in a bad accident or where you need emergency or God forbid anything, this is where you want to go, because that's where all the training happens. Then you have Houston First. The city of Houston has $18 billion worth of water treatment plants. Our infrastructure is needing an upgrade. We've also got $2.7 billion that are added to the George R. Brown Convention Center. They're doing an expansion and revitalization that's going to bring a ton of business to Houston. And then Eli Lilly, they've got a $6.5 billion campus they're going to be building out in northeast side of Houston on the Beltway. Down in Galveston, we've got Davies Defense. They just bought Gulf Copper. They're going to be building these icebreakers ships. They're going to the North Atlantic through the Antarctica. They're going to be cutting through the ice there to open up the trade routes.
So you get everything from shipbuilding to highways to hospitals and you look at all of that opportunity, but you need skilled tradespersons to be able to make sure that those are accomplished on time with quality, right?
Well, all of these also have a ripple effect where you're going to need more hospitals, more clinics, more homes, right? More shopping centers. All of these businesses bring workers to that site. I mean, you talk about an infrastructure at Pelican Island. They're gonna revitalize that facility to be able to manufacture ships. In the next 2 years, they're gonna have to build this facility. Not only that, they're gonna have to put another bridge to get 2,000 workers. It's massive.
So, Martin, what's the difference between, hiring someone that has completed a registered apprenticeship program and someone who has not?
The difference is the registered apprentice that went through the program. He has the advantage of being in class with 20 or 30 other apprentices that are on the field every day working. So them apprentices are learning stuff every day, right? Trial and error, okay? The instructor typically is someone that went through the apprenticeship school years ago, completed the program, worked on the field, and now they're instructing. So you're in that classroom with just a bunch of knowledge, and that's what the apprentice, that's the advantage versus someone that didn't go to school for it. So it's not just going to class, learning what the book says, and then go back to work. It's like you're in a room of guys that are on the field all day, and we're all learning together.
So it's that cohort model, and you have a mentor. You're getting direct hands-on experience, and you're also getting the training.
Yes, and you build relationships in class too, right? So if me and Paul are in the same class, and he's on a job at MD Anderson, and I'm at Methodist Hospital, if he learns something, he'll call me after work and, hey man,
Hey, we just found out about this
Yeah.
orbital weld. This is a new type of welding system. It's just the communication is in that relationship. It's that bond. It's the brotherhood, the sisterhood that we have, that we're always looking out for each other.
Yeah. And so that's why the 5 year, it sounds like a real long commitment, right? And I didn't get into it till I was 30 years old. So I'm like, oh man, by the time I finished the program, yes. But time flew because of so much that you learn.
Well, you started it a little later in life.
Yeah. Yeah. I worked non-union for 10 years in construction.
So for folks that aren't familiar with registered apprenticeship programs, how much does this pre-apprenticeship program cost?
Yeah, well, it's not free. It's free for the individual, but there is a cost associated to it. It's about $10,000 to put an individual through this process. Even though it's a 3-week course, it's 23 weeks long. So there's an outreach portion of it. There's a recruiting portion of it. There's an application. There's an interview. There's an orientation. Then there's a class, and then there's a placement, right? That 23 weeks, these individuals are put in a program of their own choosing, not the one that I chose. Just we provide them all of the information, so when they make a decision, it's made a decision for their own life, right? And then they stick to it.
We've spent a significant amount of time telling kids over the last 10, 20 years that they need to go to college. And, now we have a lot of people looking at registered apprenticeship programs as a very critical alternative. Paul, I know that you're on many different, both local, state, and national groups talking about the importance of registered apprenticeship programs. But can you tell our listeners, why is this a great alternative as opposed to college?
Well, yeah, I think college is look, I take nothing away from college. College institutions are necessary. The problems that college have is the component in the construction industry has to be learned in the field. Because there are a lot of things that you learn in the field that are not in a book. Tricks of the trade. And there's some, I'm not saying shortcuts, but things that you cannot put in a book when you're installing a panel. And you'll learn this when you put a panel together. You're putting in these. You're using a hose saw, and this hose saw, once the drill bit goes through and it catches the metal, it could twist your wrist and maybe even break your wrist. Right. So what we would do is you put a washer. So once the pilot hole goes through, the hose saw would catch the washer and it would just spin. And so it wouldn't twist your arm. So you already had it started. So that was the thing, is that you don't learn these things in a book. They don't have a book that says, oh, this is how you drill a hose saw. But it's telling you the technical parts that a lot of times we don't spend enough time communicating to an apprentice. This is how electricity flows through a wire. This is why we use this size wire. That technical training is crucial, but so is the on-the-job training. So you have to do both. And I think a lot of colleges, they focus all on the technical training, and the workers have to figure out what the on-the-job training is later. And a lot of people won't hire them even though they have a diploma, because they don't have any on-the-job experience. I mean, you've seen that. I've ran into so many people who have bachelor's degree in certain subjects, and they couldn't find either the saturated market or their background and what work they're trying to go after don't match.
So skills, building on skills, and then building greater relationships and opportunities for those that are in the network. Yeah. So if someone wants to learn more about registered apprenticeship program, what should they do?
Well, we have a great website, and I think
that's pretty good.
Yeah, we designed it with a lot of resource information. So when you go to our website, it's very easy. It's www.houstonconstructioncareers.com, or you can just Google Houston Building Trades. It's the first one that you'll see. It's Houston Building Trades, and in there you'll find a way to sign up if you want to learn more about what we have to offer. Go to our website, select a union that you, or a trade that you have an interest in. Fill out the information. It'll have the where you put your email address, your phone number, your name, and then how would you like to be contacted, either through a text message or an email or a phone call. And then once you fill out all that information, you hit submit. It'll go to one of our recruiters. They'll reach out to you. Even if you're already a journeyman in the non-union, we would love to have you and put you through the process to learn whether or not you have the skills, and you probably do. And then we'll send you out as a journeyman. You don't have to go through the apprenticeship program. So if you're already skilled in the industry, we can put you right to work with one of our union contractors.
Yeah. Let me speak into that, because that's a good point, Paul. There's a lot of guys out there that's on the field. They're journeymen, right? They're good at what they do. If they go to the union, they could hire right in, get tested, and get hired right in. And now they're making union wages with health care and all the benefits.
I want to thank today's guests. For employers and job seekers looking for workforce solutions services, please visit wrksolutions.com, or you can call 1-888-469-5627. Find us at workforcesolutionsnews.com. Thank you for listening, and Gulf Coast, let's get to work.